So this is a Whoop, and well, look, just watch the clip.
And those are two fairly different audiences with different goals, right? So that side that's an already subscriber side, they're coming into that review angry, and they want to be justified in saying, hey, don't subscribe to Whoop because they can't be trusted, right? And so I have to acknowledge that in my review and say, Whoop can't be trusted, right? That is a fact now. That's not something you can debate. Whoop reneged on their promise. Period. Factual statement.
The people in the video are DesFit and DC Rainmaker, both influential fitness influencers, bloggers, podcasters that you can find on YouTube, among other places, and I'll link to their channels down below. Now, if you weren't already in the know, Whoop is a screenless wrist-worn wearable that monitors your body 24/7, and it's supposed to track data like heart rate variability, resting heart rate, respiratory rate, sleep stages, and so on, to provide insights into your recovery, strain and sleep quality for all of your athletic training. Why do I need one? Well, I'm sure we can agree that's pretty high level athleticism right there. And then, well, there's this. And let me tell you, you don't get to turn out entirely inconsequential performances at parkrun like that without taking the whole quantified self thing pretty seriously. Anyway, the key part of all this for us is that Whoop operates on a membership model, monthly or annual, which includes the hardware and all of the ongoing analytics. And, well, here's what happened. Whoop previously assured users that they could upgrade to new hardware at no cost, provided they'd been members for at least 6 months. However, this promise has since been removed from the company's website, even though it was still visible as of, I think, March 28th this year, and there are various different sites that look like they're showing it. I'll pop up the relevant items on screen. Now, following the release of the most recent iteration on Whoop's current official How to Upgrade site, the company now states that existing members have one of two options. They can either extend their membership by another 12 months and receive new hardware at no extra cost, or if they'd rather not extend, they can pay a one-time upgrade fee of $49, I think, for the regular Whoop, or $79 for the more whizzy one. And, well, that sure looks like a change of tack. And crucially for us, this wasn't really one that was very well announced and made clear. You can dig into the details, but this is where DC Rainmaker, the chap from the video, is coming from. It looks like Whoop promised one thing. They promised upgrades would be free for all, and then they've delivered something else. Now, this is obviously a potential PR problem, and this being a trust channel, let me say that this also looks like a really obvious breach of trust. And it's entirely straightforward to see where DC Rainmaker is coming from when he calls it one. So far, so good. But here's where I think things get maybe a little more interesting from the point of view of the philosophy of trust. And first, I want to ask whether this really is a violation of trust. And second, I want to explore whether this violation of trust is one that matters here. Okay, so we can all agree this looks like a violation of trust, but is it? Now, one way we might look to press this question is via a test. We normally think that any breach of trust is a betrayal. So Annette Bayer wrote that trusting can be betrayed or at least let down and not just disappointed. So far as Bayer is concerned, disappointment is the appropriate response when you merely relied on someone to do something but didn't actually trust them to do it. But betrayal is the right response if we in fact trusted them. Okay. We can illustrate all of that. If the tram breaks down as I'm trying to get home, I won't feel betrayed by it breaking down. I might feel anger or disappointment or frustration and so on, but I won't feel betrayal. In contrast, if my wife drinks the last of the wine, having promised me she won't, then she's betrayed my trust in some way, and I'll feel it. Okay, fine. So what was the response to all of this with Whoop? Well, let's not treat Reddit forums as the arbiters of all debates, but a post on the official Whoop thread on Reddit included the following gem for me, of a comment. Now, of course, there are plenty of other responses in the thread, but I do think that it's really interesting that what we see here is someone talking about disappointment rather than betrayal. Were people trusting Whoop to keep prices low or to upgrade their hardware, or were they relying on them? And was everyone doing the same? It might be that some folks were trusting and others were merely relying. Really interesting to try and dig into that and see what happened. Here's another thought. Even if this really is a violation of trust as it first looks like, maybe it doesn't matter so much in the longer term for the company. To see why, let's step away from the case of Whoop for a moment and think about personal cases again. Clearly, despite all the silliness in my videos, I trust my wife when it matters. I trust her to care for our dog, for our son, for our home, and so on. Now, okay, I don't trust her with the wine. Fine. But them's the breaks. A breach of trust with regards to wine consumption doesn't really matter to me. This isn't a core part of our relationship. So what is a core part of the relationship between customers and Whoop? Now, we might think that because this is a subscription model, in theory seemingly designed to ensure that users always have the best hardware available, it would be natural to think that users trusted Whoop to provide them with free hardware upgrades. And look, maybe that's true, but if we look at what the core of the product is presented as, it isn't really about hardware. It's a software experience. I mean, Whoop infamously doesn't have a screen. It's just a band. All of the action takes place in the application, in the software. And so really we might think the fundamental relationship here is between the user and the application, between the user and the software. And so, to be sure, this latest hardware upgrade snafu is appalling publicity. But if the core relationship is one here between the user and the software rather than the user and the hardware, then it might turn out that whether users trust Whoop to provide free hardware upgrades isn't as important as the fact that users trust the software to serve them in a very particular kinds of way. Only time will tell which of those two things turns out to be true. Now, I think that working out whether this is an impactful breach of trust really matters here, and it's a place where the philosophy of trust can help us. Because rebuilding trust and rebuilding something else, like confidence, are related but distinct processes, each requiring different approaches. To rebuild trust, the focus must be on relationships and integrity. Trust is restored through honesty, consistency, transparency, and accountability over time. Apologies have got to be sincere, and then those are going to be followed by really meaningful change. In contrast, rebuilding confidence centres on restoring belief or self-belief in the competence of another. Now, confidence may be damaged by a failure, criticism, or uncertainty. To rebuild it, individuals or organisations must focus on things like small achievable successes, skill development, and positive reinforcement. It normally involves resetting goals, cultivating resilience, and reinforcing evidence of capability. Confidence, we might say, thrives on clarity and progress, not just reassurance. So yes, look, here I am speculating as to whether or not this is a breach of trust or something else, a bit like confidence. But which of those two things we have here will determine what Whoop's best course of action is from this point on. For me, I'll be continuing with my highly athletic endeavours. Whether that's with a Whoop or not, well, we'll see as time goes by. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Until the next video, stay suitably trusting.